Hello and welcome. I'm Patrick Curtis, your host and chief monkey, and this is the Wall Street Oasis podcast. Join me as I talk to some of the community's most successful and inspirational members to gain valuable insight into different career paths and life in general. Let's get to it. Another fun session giving career advice to the WSO interns. Enjoy. So welcome to week number, I think 5 or 6, I can't keep track, but of the weekly calls. Really appreciate all of you joining. We'll probably still have some stragglers coming in here in the next few minutes, but I'll try to keep letting them in as they come. Other than that, I think just for people, if this is their first week joining, if you want to put questions in the chat about the internship, or even just raise your hand or unmute yourself, feel free to go ahead. I think the group's small enough this week. We got about 20 of us in here, 15, 20 of us. So if there's questions specifically around careers, your specific situation, the internship in particular, even if you haven't started, I'm happy to answer those. So I guess we'll start it off by opening up questions about the internship in particular. Anything that anyone is facing, any issues, or any questions you have around the process there. Hi, Cigar. Welcome. Anybody have questions, or everyone feels like they've gotten a good start? Just a reminder at the top of at the intern group on the Slack, there is an internship guide that has like step-by-step guidelines in terms of how to start and in terms of all the things you need to do with Hubstaff, tracking your hours, all that good stuff. Anish has a question, so I'm going to unmute you. Anish, go ahead.
Hi. Hello. Am I audible?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah. So I'm basically going to start my internship on 15th of June.
Okay.
And I just wanted to ask you if there's some prerequisites before I start the internship.
Yeah, there's a set of things you should do prior to starting, but usually about 2 days before, we'll send you a reminder email, and you can go in. And are you a part of the Slack group right now?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, so if you go there, everything you need is pinned at the top of the group. So there's an internship guide that has a step-by-step process of the things you need to do to get started. So it's like step 1, getting the Hubstaff downloaded, watching the video in terms of how to do it. And that's usually a good place to start to get your feet under you, so you kind of know even how to begin, because I know it can be a little confusing the first time you start on your first topic.
Yeah, so nothing except for the internship guide, right?
Nothing except for that. Yeah. And there's submission checklists and stuff like that, but you can start with the internship guide, and that'll get you to a good place.
Okay. Thank you.
And that's it. Yeah. And we'll send you an email a couple of days prior to your start date. Anshal, question. I hope I'm saying.
Hello, Patrick.
Hi, how are you?
Fine. Okay, so I wanted to ask, if I have few topics which is not mentioned in the WSO tracker project, so how do I add those topics?
So we'd like you to stick with the topics that are there initially. If you do have ideas for topics to add, you would just message Nabil. Nabil was out this week, so it's a little harder. But if you have ideas for new topics, we're open to that. But we'd like to get those just approved first before we do that, because the risk being we don't want you writing on a topic that's very similar to one that's already kind of set, or one that's in there. If it's completely new or different, or it's something that we don't have a lot of stuff on, we'll probably say yes if it's interesting.
Okay, so should I email Nabil? Yeah,
you can email Nabil or just send him a Slack. He probably won't get back to you till next week though, because he's off on vacation. So if you want to start on one that's there, and then send him a Slack, send him a Slack message just saying, hey, I'm really interested in writing about, these 3 topics or these 2 topics, that's totally fine.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions about the internship in general? Then we can get to the fun stuff, which is the more career-oriented questions, which I hope there's some. We had a fun discussion last week about, MBA versus MSF versus all this stuff. VioMesh is on here. VioMesh works works with WSO full time now. Vyomesh, you're also welcome to ask questions if you have any.
I wanted to shoot a quick reminder about the hub staff activity levels.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, that's it. Yeah, good point. In terms of some people have expressed concern over the hub staff activity levels. This is not like the primary thing we're looking at all. It's just a way to make sure that that there is some activity there. And what's going to matter more is if you're engaged in terms of like putting out content, asking questions, and articles, and the quality of the articles. So we don't want people rushing through and just putting out whatever comes through, whatever comes to their mind. We want you to properly research the topics so that when you are starting to write, finally, there's a good outline there. You have the header tags placed, and the quality is high, so that there's less kind of back and forth with the editors. So I think in that sense, the activity level is just a way for us to make sure there's some activity going on there, that there's no like set level you need to be at. It's just a question of like, if it's super, super low and there's like hours and hours going by, then that would be a concern, but that shouldn't be an issue, even if you're researching and reading online about a topic. So I think there was some concern over that. I know when people initially see hub staff or start out the first times, it can be a little bit, for some people, it can be a little bit like, oh, what does this mean? What are the expectations? I think Nabil last week or the week prior said that, as long as there's a decent cadence of content coming out, and that could be, one article anywhere between, if it's a shorter one, probably 2 to 3 hours. If it's a longer one, it could be upwards of 7 hours. And we're not going to say, oh my gosh, that took too long. If it's higher quality and you just did a lot of research and it's a longer form article, we don't have a problem with that. Welcome, Felix. Welcome, Christian. So yeah, any other questions about, or Vyomesh, thanks for the reminder. Anything else that I think I needed to address? No, I think I saw another hand up. I wasn't sure. Did I miss it?
I think we can also let them know that they need to use the desktop app, because I think a few might be confused.
Yes, if for hub staff in terms of tracking your hours, so you get credit for them and you get all the rewards alongside it. Make sure you're using the hub staff desktop app for that, not the mobile app or the browser app. Please use the desktop one. That keeps everybody on the same thing. We get the same data coming in, so we can track it. So we can track it better. So that's it. Welcome, Alvin. Welcome. I think it's Reham. Any other questions around the internship? Vyomesh, anything else you think I should cover?
I think everything else is covered in the internship guide, and there's no other concerns that anyone has expressed.
Okay, great. So if there's anything else, we got about 20 of us now. So I'll just open it up. You can put a question in the chat, anything specific around, I could spend another 20 minutes or more here with all of you, answering questions about specific careers, specific degrees, specific interview preparation, networking, what have you. Yeah, Liam, go ahead.
Yeah, so I guess the first part is like a little bit of an ad, or like to kind of tell other interns, and the second part will be a question. But I had an interview this morning, like a first round interview at a middle market bank for investment bank and summer analyst role. And basically like a lot of like the interview was spent talking about what I do at Wall Street Oasis. So I just figured I'd let other interns know that like this is really like valuable to have. Like I would say like 20 to 30% of the interview was literally just talking about what I do here. And the second question, this is just to Patrick, would be, I think I did well in this. It was on Zoom, the first round interview, where I think I'll be brought in for a super day. That's kind of what I was getting from the interviewer. So I guess kind of had, obviously like I have an idea of how to prepare for the technical and behavioral like questions, but just kind of, you can kind of go over like interview etiquette, especially for like a super day, like kind of like, what do you wear? Like, how would you greet, like introduce yourself? Like, I don't know, just kind of like your advice for like interview etiquette.
Yeah, good. I'm just changing my name here on the thing so people know that my name's Patrick. Just
yeah, sorry.
The chief monkey here. So yeah, good question. First off, yeah, thanks for calling that out. We've heard from interns in the past that entire interviews have been about the Wall Street Oasis experience, and I'll tell you why that often happens. It's because it's different. It's because they want to know like, oh, they know Wall Street Oasis from the community. So they're curious. So that's the good news is you can talk about like the work you did. You can talk about the financial modeling courses you took. You can talk. So it really makes it like a more fun, friendly discussion rather than drilling you on technicals. So hopefully that'll help. Liam, hopefully the rest of the people here will experience the same thing you did. In terms of interview etiquette, I would be business formal. So sorry, there was like a loud motorcycle here when you were saying something about like the middle market bank. It was a first round at what bank?
It was like along the lines of like RBC and BMO. If you could.
Okay. Yep. So good banks. So I think it's going to be pretty down the fairway. So you'll probably want to, in terms of like interview etiquette, definitely I'd say business formal, wear a tie, be clean shaven. Don't be like me with a white beard. You can have a beard, but probably better just to play it safe, be conservative, be clean, show up really early. Are you close to where you'll be interviewed?
Yeah. My school's like 40 minutes away on the subway.
You may want to do that trip once prior just to get a sense of like where you can go. I'd arrive like a good hour or hour and a half prior to thing. That doesn't mean check in, but get right next to where you need to be. Go to a coffee shop and study your resume and your materials and your answers. Yeah. Prior, just so there's nothing could happen. There can't be something in the subway breaks, the bus, nothing. It's, if that happens, you're ready and you can get an Uber, or you can do whatever, and you're not rushed and stressed about that. You want to be in a good spot, calm place, when you're going in. So in terms of etiquette, do you mean like how to come into the room and stuff like that?
Yeah, just because I've really never had like an in-person interview before. I've only had Zoom interviews.
Yeah, so I think just a good, strong handshake, eye contact when you first meet people. Great to meet you. Thanks so much for the opportunity. Kind of like standard. Don't give them flimsy handshake. Give them a strong handshake and look them in the eyes. Yeah. I think in terms of knowing if you're doing anything odd is important. So I think actually record. When is the super day?
If I were to get into the super day, like invited to it, it would be 2 weeks from now.
So you have time. So what I would do is record yourself. So get on a Zoom chat and hit record and literally just pretend like somebody just go through the interview course from the IB interview course on WSO, literally just start going through the basic questions and answering them. Pretend like you're talking to somebody, or even better, get somebody on there to like ask them to you. So you feel like it's a little bit more face-to-face. Record yourself, record your whole upper body to see what you're doing with your hands. See if there's if you're doing weird things with like your head or your little things like that, just so you can be aware of it. Are you saying, you start picking up on patterns like that? So, I just said, see, so if you start picking up on little cues you're doing in terms of filler words, it's really helpful to hear the recording back and say, where could I have tightened that up? Where could that have been better? And that's really important for how you're mapping your behavioral and fit questions. So a lot of people will focus on the technical questions because they're nervous about it. But what can make or break you in the interview is really the standards, like why do you want to be in investment banking? So, and knowing that these behavioral questions, it's a lot more about what examples you're pulling in rather than a generic, because I can learn a lot from smart people. Right? Which is fine. The answer is good, but I think being more specific around like, tell me about a time when you struggled with leadership or you disagreed with leadership. What did you do? Tell me about a time when you had a conflict with a group. What did you do? Tell me about a time when, so like, these are like tough questions, but so what you need to have in the next 2 weeks, you need to make sure that you have specific stories from your past, from this internship, from other internships, from schoolwork that you can map to those questions. So as soon as they start asking you one of these like weird behavioral questions of like, what would you do what would you do specifically if you disagreed with your superior, you didn't agree with somebody, you are already in your head thinking, I'm going to bring in this story, or I'm going to bring in this example. So it's not so if you have to, you can give the generic answer if you don't have a story that can map, but almost always you want to point to a story where you had that experience and how you dealt with it, and why you think it would be a skill you develop that you feel like is relevant to the position and can help you. So I think that's probably the best bet, is actually doing those mock interviews, because it's just going to, I know it's a pain, but sitting there and doing, like, let's say in the next 2 weeks, doing 5 mock interviews, your 6th time is going to be your best time.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
Your 6th time answering the question is almost guaranteed going to be your best time. So like, if this is a really important job and really important interview for you, shouldn't you put in those 5 hours in the next 2 weeks?
Especially this is my last week WSO. So yeah,
that's it. That's it, man. Like this is it. This is what the whole reason you did this internship. So like go in with the, like, really these next 2 weeks. And if you want to like send me through like what your stories are and the examples you're using, I can kind of give a thumbs up, thumbs down on them.
Okay, yeah.
Over email. Be like, hey, here are the 10 stories I'm pulling for showing leadership, showing, I can work long hours, showing all this stuff.
Yeah.
So like when they ask, what makes you think you can do this? You know what the hours are like, right? If they ask you a question like that, or like, what makes you think you can handle these hours? You don't say, look, I'm a really hard worker. I've always been a really hard worker. You say, well, just as an example, last semester I had a full-time this, I did an internship, I did this, I supported myself through that. That's what you want to do. You want to be able to list those things out, rather than it being, I'm a hard worker and I'm going to outwork everyone.
Yeah.
Show them, don't tell them. Okay. And that you always want to do that. And always at the end, you tie back about how this skill set makes you feel like you're really prepared for this position and you understand what you're getting into.
Yeah, no, I also use the WSO interview guide, and that's helped a lot too. Yeah.
So just really study that in terms of map, but don't like the example answers in there. Don't just say the same. You obviously have to map it to your own. You have to map it to your own experiences. Mm-hmm. The technicals you can pretty much stick with on that, but understand the concepts about like the flowing through the 3 statements, like what happens if depreciation goes up $10.
Yeah.
You got to know that. You got to know that one. That's very common. You got to understand working capital. If AR goes up 10 days, what's going on? You know what I mean? That type of stuff. Let's get to some other people here. Emmett, I think, has had his hand up for a while. Emmett, you want to shoot your question?
Hi, Patrick.
How are you?
I'm doing okay. Thanks for your advice last week. I managed to get 1 offer, so really grateful for your help.
Oh, awesome. I can't even remember. What did we talk about?
I think it was just kind of advice about, if I get 2 offers, how should I approach it? Should I say?
Oh, yes, I remember now. Yes.
So I got 1, haven't heard from the rest. I'm not too optimistic, but look, I got 1 that can start in June, so really happy about that. So awesome. Thanks for your help anyway. My question was regarding the internship that we're doing now. I think you'd agreed that when the bullet points that you put down under the experience that you list on your CV, it's pretty good advice to put down metrics, stuff that can measure the impacts that you had on the in the role that you had. So would you have any advice on what kind of numbers and metrics we could use for this internship? Obviously the number of articles could be one example, but maybe page hits, increase in viewership, et cetera, et cetera. Are there any sort of metrics there that we could use?
Yes, absolutely. I put in a link to the chat right now that has an example of how to put it on your CV. And in there, I quantify, say, wrote 50,000 plus words across 20 articles on detailed financial, blah, blah, blah. And in there, I say, research appropriate subtitles, develop examples to help with search engine optimization, resulting in a 30% month-over-month growth to the new resources section of the site. Over 200 hours of self-study. So there's a lot of quantification in those bullets that I think looks really strong. So I have some stuff in there. We have seen significant growth in the resource section, which are where these articles are going. So you can use that as part of, it wasn't all you, obviously it's the full team, but you can use that as a specific for showing numbers.
Okay. And would you include maybe, receives training from Wall Street Oasis on financial modeling.
Oh yeah, that's all in there. I just sent a link in the chat. It has all that there. You should absolutely say that.
Okay, is this in the Slack chat, is this?
Yep, it's at the top of the Slack chat, but I also just posted it into the chat of the group here for people.
Oh, okay, I don't think I can see it, but look, I'll look in the Slack. Thanks for your help there.
Yeah, no worries. I'm pretty sure it's in the Slack, right? Yeah, it's at the top. It's called WSO Internship CV Example. It's key. I would do something very close to that. The only difference is if you want to make it just the top 2 bullets and even make the financial modeling and valuation courses its own, like if you need to fill out more space, you could take that and put it under like skills, a skills section near the bottom as like, or even education if you really wanted to be more aggressive in terms of highlighting your financial modeling and valuation skills. I would recommend for somebody who's like a liberal arts major potentially to do that, to really, like if you're a history major or something like that and you really want to show finance on your resume so you have a shot at getting more interviews, that's a good way to do it.
Perfect. Thanks very much.
Yeah, no worries. Let's see who else had their hand up. Alvin, you wanna? I like the wolf.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's my favorite animal. Like it represents me in kind of. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So first of all,
so you'll know what to answer when they ask you in the interview. What animal would you be if you're going to say wolf?
Yeah, exactly, wolf.
They're going to ask you why right after, but you don't have to answer that now. But go ahead.
Yeah. So thank you for having me here. Actually, this is my first Meetup call, and I'll be starting my internship actually on the 5th of May because this week I just finished with my exams.
Congrats.
So yeah, I'm a third-year finance student, and I'll be graduating next year. So I have 3 questions. So my first question is for this internship. I wanted to know, like whenever we are writing an article, from which resource should we like take our in order to write the articles, from which resource should we do some research? Yeah.
Google. And primarily Google. You should be looking at what other articles on the topics are ranking at the top. So if you look in the top of the Slack group that you're in, the internship guide, we actually have a video going through exactly how to do the research.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So like we even have a video where we do an example, and Nabil and I go through it and we ask questions like, okay, what will we do next? What's the next header? What's the next section? How do we build out this outline before we even start writing? So I would watch that because it's going to make things much clearer.
All right. So like given like for me in my course, I did some modules on financial markets and financial like M&A. So I can also use some of my knowledge, right? Like whenever I'm.
Yeah, that's great. That's why we have a lot of finance majors, internship, and people and accounting accounting majors who can go in and help us with the accounting terms and topics and stuff like that. So yeah, for sure. You could definitely use your knowledge. What I would suggest though is don't just lean on your knowledge, because it's not about like academic writing or knowledge per se. It's also about how you're structuring the article and how you're structuring things such that a visitor finds it easy to follow. So like, breaking it down, showing examples. So like, I think the example in the at the top of the internship is cash conversion cycle. So it's not just like what the definition of the cash conversion cycle is, like, here's an example, here's another example, stuff like that.
All right. Okay. So my second question is, since after graduation, I'm planning to work for 1 or 2 years, after which I would like to do a master's in finance, since I'm planning to get into investment banking in the top firms. So I wanted to know if doing an MSc is a good option, or should I do CFA or keep working?
If you're looking for investment banking, I would push you towards the master's in finance and not the CFA. If you're looking to be in the markets, meaning hedge fund, asset management, equity research, then I would push you to the CFA. So it really depends what you're trying to, if you're trying to do mergers and acquisitions, valuation type work, the CFA isn't where you want to go or spend your time.
Okay. Like for me personally, I'm very passionate about like M&A, investment banking. Like
Then don't do the CFA, do the master's in finance, or even better, try to break into an investment bank prior, a small boutique investment bank, get that experience it before deciding to go spend 50,000 pounds on a master's.
All right. So like, let's say I'm graduating.
I don't know. I don't know where you are, but a lot of people, head to London for like LSE, or they go.
Yeah, same. Even I'm thinking to go to London, like Imperial. I was thinking Imperial Business School maybe, because I'll be graduating in Australia.
Imperial, so, yeah, yep.
So since I'll be graduating in 2023, maybe I could work for 1.5 years and then go for my master's in like end of 2025, like after getting like 1-2 year experience. So,
yeah, you're in Australia, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, can you get a position as you don't think it's possible for you to get a position as an analyst or an intern at a small boutique bank locally?
Yeah.
Is that possible?
Oh yeah, like we have 2
years. Like when you said work 1 to 2 years, I get the sense that you're aiming for jobs that are not banking for some reason.
I don't know, like I'm thinking to work, let's say, like a finance analyst or junior equity research analyst, since we will be getting 2-year post-study work, right? Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, no, those are relevant. But why wouldn't you apply for analyst programs coming out of uni as well? Or are you? Like investment banking analyst roles, you're going to apply for those too, I assume.
Okay, so if I'm planning to get into investment banks right after graduation, you'd suggest me to apply for investment roles instead of financial analysts. So that's what you mean?
No, I mean apply for investment banking analyst roles.
Okay,
so finance analyst, usually, maybe it's different in Australia, but finance analyst, I usually think of like corporate finance type work. But if you can work for an investment bank like a Macquarie, I don't know how to say it. But they have a big office there, right? In Sydney, I believe. But like,
yeah, in Sydney, yeah.
Yeah, so like that should be your target for sure.
Okay.
Like you should be pounding down the door, networking like a maniac to try and get an interview there for the analyst roles. It might be a little too late because you're third year.
Yeah, I'm third.
But there may be small banks in Sydney and Melbourne that are, just 2 MDs or 2 partners and an associate, and they may want an analyst. And you say, hey, I'll work for very cheap because I just want to get the experience. You work for there for a year or 2, then you start, and during that time, you're networking with people at Macquarie, and you keep telling them, hey, I'm available if you guys ever need me. I'm available. Boom, you lateral after a year there into the big bank. You don't need a master's in finance. Suddenly, you just saved yourself, 50,000 pounds.
Okay.
You're in investment banking. You're doing what you want to do. I mean, it doesn't mean you don't go there for optionality value later. It doesn't mean you can't still go, because maybe you'll start doing investment banking. You'll get promoted straight to associate after 3 years because you're really good. And then suddenly you're saying, hey, wait a second, this isn't for me. Then that's when I feel like business school and MBA and MSF is actually a nice reset.
All right.
But go after what you want to do now.
Yeah. All right. Thank you
for if you strike out all the other jobs that you said, you should be applying for those as well, because equity research, valuation analyst, working at a big 4 under transaction advisory services, these are all great related careers and roles that can lead to where you want to go.
Okay.
You get those transaction advisory services, TAS groups at the big 4? Have you heard of those?
I was looking for JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs.
What were you going to do for them though?
I don't know. I was just trying to look a bit on the positions, like some of the requirements. I was just doing a small research.
Yeah. So what I would always say is go to a smaller name where the work is more relevant to where you want to be, rather than just chasing the name early on. So go get valuation work at a big 4, which is respected. Go get, it has a name, but it's not like a KPMG. People are gonna be like, oh, it's KPMG. But, if you're doing valuation work and you're working at transaction advisory services, guess who the banks look to when suddenly their 2 analysts leave, and they're like, a certain group leaves and they're like, oh, we need to hire an analyst now. And then where do they pull? They pull straight from that group.
Okay. Get it.
So, and then they're going to know you because you're going to be having read the networking course, and you'll be already having talked to them, letting them know that you're interested.
Exactly. Yeah.
They're going to know. And so like, because jobs aren't posted.
Okay.
People need to realize on this group and in general, 90% of the jobs are never promoted. They're never posted. So like, you can't be like scouring their site, looking at the jobs and like dropping your resume, thinking you're going to get a job. That's the worst way to go about getting a job. It's who do you have a relationship? Do you know any analysts there? Are you graduating with anybody who actually gets a job at Macquarie or at KPMG or at PwC or wherever? Are you staying in touch with them? Are you being helpful to them?
Yeah.
Right. I feel like I'm talking to a wolf, but that's okay. Thanks, Alvin.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for the information. Yeah.
Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah. Thank you.
Let's see. Let me see the chat. I haven't answered any chat questions. Well, there's a lot. Okay. Raghav, thanks for the kind words. Chris said, hey, oh yeah, this is a private message. Yeah, you can just approach Victor from Fidelity. Just say you're an intern for us. If he doesn't help you out, I'll kill him. So just tell me if he doesn't respond to you. Just kidding. Okay, here we go. Ahmed asked an interesting question. What do you think is better to a financial analyst position, a CFA or a CPA? Most corporations prefer CPAs over CFAs in such positions. CPA, so CFA is, again, like I mentioned before, it's really more if you're going to be working in the markets. So like hedge fund asset management. So like anything around the stock market, the bond market, options, trading, stuff like that is very well respected there. If you're working in like a financial division within a company, yes, the CPA and accountant, it tends to be a little bit more valued. But CPA is often also overkill, as is the CFA for like front office investment banking roles. It's a huge time commitment. So it just depends on like where you want to go, Ahmed. Like, I don't know, like financial analyst position, it could mean like 50 different things. So it depends what you mean by financial analyst position. If it's at a corporate, at a Fortune 500, it's different. And there's like rotation programs, a lot of like these large companies like FP&A roles, what do they call it? Corporate development, FLDP, financial leadership development programs are a great place to be. They give you a taste of like all the different divisions of the company. Some of them are very well respected. So Ahmed, I need a little bit more info in terms of like the question, because it kind of just depends what you're going after. CPA, obviously, or CPA way better for like if you want to do something in tax, audit, accounting, especially for the big four, they love the CPAs. So it's probably the safer of the two degrees, but it's a huge investment of time. So kind of tough because you got to know what you want to do in like 5-10 years. Can someone remove our assigned tag from the topic tracker and write that topic? Is it possible? Sagar, I'm not sure I understand the question. Are you saying, can someone change if you've already assigned it to yourself? I don't think most people, Nabil should be the only one who can do that, but I'm not sure I understand the question if you want to clarify it in the chat. Tanae asked an interesting question. What do you think is the best way to break into consulting? Just like any job, the best way to break into any job is really just knowing the right people and getting into the right programs and hearing about jobs that aren't marketed. Easier than that in terms of like not having to talk to people, is going to a top target school and being on campus recruiting, so that you get high grades, you study your case, consulting case interview prep really well. We have a consulting case interview prep course you can get for free if you with the hours you put in this internship. If you study that, you'll be ready for like how to structure your cases, your thinking, your consulting math. So you can do all that prep, but really to get the interviews at like a McKinsey, Bain, BCG, even Oliver Wyman, these other top consulting firms, you need to be networking, you need to be talking with people. Of course, there are like cultural differences depending on what country you're in, and how networking is looked upon, but at least here in the US, you can be pretty aggressive and get a lot more opportunities if you're building out that network. Happy to answer more specific questions tonight if you have them. let's see here. Macquarie, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I always like think of it in 5 different ways. So I've heard it so many different ways. Ahmed said more in the trade analyst positions. Trade analyst positions like at a bank, you mean? So like you're settling trades and stuff?
Similar to BNP Paribas.
Uh-huh. So like what's the role? Financial analyst, but like what's the job description?
So like managing clients' portfolio, stock market analysis, and this type of position.
CFA for that. CFA for that all day. Is that what the question was? CPA or CFA? Yeah, I would say CFA would be looked on more highly there because it's giving you a really nice view of the whole markets. And you're going to understand options. You're going to understand trading. You're going to understand portfolio diversification. You're going to understand all that stuff. That's really important, especially speaking to clients.
Yeah.
Especially if you want to move up. They won't let you speak to clients when you start. But if you want to move up, you're going to need to do that.
And I have one more question. So basically, I'm based in Canada, Montreal.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking, what do you think is better, Bay Street or New York, if it's like Toronto or New York as a position? Where to start?
Where to start? New York.
Okay.
For sure, if you can get it. Right. But like, I think the visas from Canada aren't as hard.
Yeah.
So if you can get it, absolutely go for New York. But getting a job in Toronto is not easy either.
Yeah. That's my issue. Like I'm trying to apply for a lot of positions, but like they always look at a lot of experience. In a way, like they want you to be a new graduate, but like you have, let's say.
So tell me your background and I can give you more specifics.
Okay, so
when did you graduate?
Finance, banking and finance. My undergrad is a BBA, and I have a graduate diploma, business administration, focus management. So it's in like M1 in the French system as a master's 1. And I have my investment funds Canada, which lets me deal with mutual funds and in any bank or financial institution. And I was planning on taking I have my CFA level 1 exam in August.
So, and you want to get into like private wealth management or asset management for clients in the banks? That's the goal?
Basically, yeah, like any trade analyst position.
So the CFA, I think, is a good step. All the other stuff, it's just confusing to the HR people and all that stuff. So like, you're not going to get anywhere because they have a certain person they want coming out of undergrad with a set boxes. You're outside that box.
Yeah.
Do you understand? Like, they're not even thinking like, what? This guy's graduated a long time ago. He has this master's, but they don't know where to put you.
Yeah.
So they just throw your resume away.
Anyway, yeah.
So like, that's what's going to keep happening. So how do you get around that?
I'm trying, let's say, to minimize my experience, everything on LinkedIn, just keeping it towards the job description that I'm applying for in a position.
But are you applying directly? That's good. But are you applying directly just through LinkedIn and stuff like that and online?
No, I'm connecting with the one who added the post at first.
Good.
Then they without me filling the application, they tell me that we're going to do an interview with you.
Great.
But I always pass the first one, but the second one is the most they start telling me that here in Montreal, they tell me that you don't speak French. It's a reason why you can't continue.
So why don't you go to Toronto?
Because I finished this summer my degree, the master's. So after I finish it, I'm going back because I'm an Ontario resident. So I was born in Ottawa.
You can just say, so start applying for jobs in Toronto, I think is the answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Start applying for jobs in Toronto and New York. Don't limit yourself to just because you're there,
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the key. I think you're doing smart things. You're not just like mass applying to everything. You're being targeted. If you're getting past the first round, that's good. But if you don't speak French, you're going to be kind of shit out of luck. If that's a requirement, you're going to be shit out of luck in the second.
Yeah, in Quebec, it's mandatory. If you don't speak French, you can't work.
Yeah, so you should just forget Montreal.
Yeah, I'm just like waiting until I finish this summer my degree, and that's it. So,
I wouldn't wait. I'd start applying now because it's soon. Like, you don't want to be coming end of your degree and you have no job.
Yeah, of course.
So I would be applying now to places in Toronto. I'd be doing, 10 to 20 applications, but with the short message, be like, I just applied for this role. I'd love to chat over phone. I'd love to, blah, blah, blah. Doing kind of what you're doing with the reducing your LinkedIn. So it's a little bit more tailored.
Yeah. And I also used to do the coffee interview. Like, let's go to the coffee shop if you can speak. And so it used to work, but not everyone is open to such a thing in a way.
No way. Yeah. If you can get 1 out of, 30 people to go meet you for coffee, that's good. That's a good ratio.
Yeah. It was a bit hard at first, but now I'm a bit used to that. But I'm always trying to build connections, working. I don't want to
How many connections do you have on LinkedIn? I'm checking, so you better not lie to me.
Okay, I have 72. My LinkedIn account is I created, I think, 5 months ago.
I see you. Yeah. Okay. So way too narrow. You should have over 500 connections by next week.
I'm trying, but I don't want to.
No. It literally takes 30 seconds, Ahmed.
Yeah, I know, but I don't want to add any person that is a bit out of the field. I'm trying to add. I'm gonna make it tailored toward only finance professionals.
Yeah, but what's stopping you from running a search, seeing everybody in Toronto that's in private wealth management, asset management, whatever, and adding them, be like, hey, I'd love to. I see that you work in Toronto, and I'm looking to make the move in a few months once I graduate with my master's. I'd love to chat at some point in the future. Just starting to get those connections. You could send out 100 of those messages. Probably 10 to 15 of them will accept.
Yeah, lately I've been a bit lazy about this specific thing on LinkedIn because.
Well, you have this internship. You have school.
Yeah, and I also have another job. So with the university.
Yeah.
So it's a bit I have a full schedule. So
yeah. So I hate to say it, but that takes priority over basically everything.
Yeah, I'm trying. I added, let's say, next year I'm gonna be in the field. I will secure a job.
Yeah, but so my whole point is 74 connections over 4 to 5 months. You could just get 74 connections a day. Not a day. That's not true because LinkedIn will stop you after 100-ish to 150 requests a day.
Yeah.
But you could send about 600-700 connection requests per week, of which you'll probably get 100.
Yeah.
In a week.
I'm gonna start doing that. Yeah. I need to.
Yeah. Read the networking course once you can from the site. This is the most important thing. It's the most important skill. People downplay it. They hate networking, but it's that's what matters, because then you're going to hear about jobs that aren't posted. And suddenly you're just going to be able to get more phone calls. You're going to get more coffee chats, and you speak well, there's nothing to be afraid of.
Yeah, of course.
So there's nothing to be afraid of. It's just a question of just putting in the time, literally just carve out 30 minutes a day. And that's all.
Yeah, I should do that.
Yeah. It's like anything, man. It's with the work, you put in the work, the dividends will come. But that's an important place to put work in, because with graduation in 3 months or however many months it is, you want to have that network established, not when you're unemployed.
Yeah.
Before you're unemployed.
Yeah. The good thing about the degree that I'm doing now is that let's say it helps me avoid the overqualification, because not a lot of people consider it as a master's, but they consider it as a graduate study.
Oh, so it's seen as a more junior credential.
Yes, in a way. That's why I got multiple offers for masters, and I got accepted in good business schools in Canada. But I prefer to choose this one because it gives me, let's say, a bit of knowledge in the Canadian market, but it doesn't overqualify me.
Yeah, no, it's smart. It's really smart. Now you just need to get out of your own head and start talking to more people. You started doing it sounds but then you kind of got busy.
Yeah, anyway, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, just make sure it's priority because that's the thing that'll really pay dividends and most likely to get you interviews in Toronto, where you don't need to know French.
Okay, thank you a lot.
Good luck, man. Keep us updated. I'm curious where you end up. Some people still straggling in here. Hey, Parth. Hey, Manas. Yeah, Liam says use the free month of LinkedIn Premium. Good advice, Liam. Who has their hand up? Felix, you've had your hand up for a while. How are you? Where in the world are you, Felix?
Hi there.
Hi.
Nice to meet you properly.
Nice to meet you.
I'm in London at the moment, actually.
Looks like San Francisco behind you. You look like you're close to me.
Yeah, I put that filter on. Yeah, no, I'm not starting yet with you guys till I get back home to Australia. But I just wanted to jump in and say hello. And I like this. It's a good little coaching session from you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, if you have any questions once you start or for personal career stuff, I'm happy to answer it. I expect in the summer, these are going to be much larger groups, probably closer to 40 to 50, but now it's kind of nice. It's a little bit more intimate with, 20 to 30 people.
Yeah. And I just thought I'd mention I'm interning right now at a small M&A firm in London in Mayfair. And I just wanted to second your comment before about looking at the smaller firms as well, because I've been able to already in just the first couple of weeks be exposed to so much and do so much because it's a smaller place, right? So they'll actually get you to do a lot. So right now I've been working on a deal because we're mostly sell side. So we're already working on a deal, essentially listing up potential acquirers and then trade comparables with recent deals, etc. So
yeah, you're building the strongest resume. Yeah, just by the name on the resume is a lot less important than people think. It's the skills you're building. So yeah.
I just wanted to highlight that because I thought what you said was exactly right there.
Yeah, appreciate that.
And in the interview as well, they just loved when you talk about what you learned from the experience. I think Liam was chatting before about some stuff. That's what I found really helped is whenever I mentioned an issue, even if it was failing, as long as I mentioned what I learned out of it, they loved that.
Yeah, tell us the time you failed or fell on your face or,
Yeah.
They love that.
For sure.
Yeah, not giving a fake failure. Actually talk about a time when you did fail. It's good. Great. Thank you, Felix. Great to meet you. I think the other thing I'll say about that is interesting because we had an intern, I don't think he's on here, who recently went through the program and he was emailing me and he was saying he's transferring from community college and when should he be applying to the bulge bracket banks? And I just my brain almost exploded thinking what is this obsession with bulge bracket banks? Maybe it's Wall Street Oasis. Everyone has this group of I need to make it to a bulge bracket bank. No. There's elite boutiques out there. There's very strong middle markets. Sometimes they pay more and have better work-life balance than the bulge bracket banks. So it's you don't need to be at a bulge bracket bank. It's not going to define who you are. There's great careers. And by the way, that bulge bracket bank will be begging you to come work if you get strong experience at a middle market or a boutique bank in a few years, because a lot of people who start the bulge bracket, they don't last. They want to get out. Do you know the demand at the experienced analyst to associate level? It is through the roof. It is through the roof. Banks can't hold on to their analysts because they're working them 90 to 110 hours a week. So if anyone wants that, if you actually want that after working at a middle market bank and you want to upscale the name or the brand on your resume, you'll most likely have that opportunity to do so if you're good, right? If you're good at the work at the middle market or the boutique and you're doing real deals, you're getting experience like Felix, you're spreading comps, you're doing all the things that the analysts have to do. They're desperate for bodies. So I'll say the worst thing you can do is miss entire recruiting sessions because you're so you don't understand where you stand in the hierarchy and you think incorrectly that you have actually a shot at these bulge bracket banks. No offense to the intern, but he's transferring from a community college to a 4-year institution. He's not even talking about going to a target school. And I'm what do you mean? You should be applying to every single bank transaction by Big Four, and you should be ecstatic if you get a Big Four transaction advisory services role. Ecstatic because you're on the track now. Yet if you apply only to bulge bracket investment banking jobs, number one, you probably won't even get an interview. If you maybe get one or two, You're probably just going to get blown out because it's super hard and competitive. They'll be like, what are you doing here? Why would I hire you over the kid with a 4.0? Kids with 4.0s from Harvard, Yale, Princeton, London School of Economics, they get rejected every single day from these places. So like people are delusional thinking they can get into these bulge bracket banks, like with coming from a no-name school, or from like a lot of you have this huge uphill battle coming with visa issues. Like it's a nightmare. So like just be realistic, be super hardworking, be realistic, get the right experience on your CV, and then you have a shot with the lateraling. That's the best I can tell you, but don't be delusional.
For sure.
I was the same way when I was 20 though. So it's like, it's easy to preach it now.
Yeah. And for sure, like when I was chatting with the managing director at our place, he also hires a lot of people out of the accounting firms too. So it's not like a horrible place to go start. And then you can try and move over into the banking stuff, it seems. And one of the guys in my first week who came from KPMG initially, then moved into this, impressed a client so much that he is now their CFO, just starting this week. So he got poached. So you never know what you can get out of the little places.
That's amazing. Love that story.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you, Patrick. Nice to meet you.
Yep. This is like my little soapbox every week. It's great. I get to rant and rave to all of you, even if you don't want to hear it. Emmett, did you have another question, or your hand was raised, or is that the old one?
I do have another question, maybe two, but I'll try to keep them as quick as possible for anybody else who has any.
Shoot.
But one was for the writing that we're going to be doing for the articles, is it okay if we put in maybe time-sensitive content? So, for example, if we're explaining M&A, could we write something like, in 2021, there was 5.8 trillion worth of deals, or would you want it to be,
It's a great question. Yeah, it's tough. I prefer it to be a little more evergreen. But if you give something that's like, instead of 2021 only, but you want like 2021 and you went back and like showed a history of it, I think it'd be a little more interesting, like in terms of transaction volume. Is that what you're talking about? Like transaction volume over time or something like that?
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Or you can give like example deal. Yeah, you could give example deals of like in 21, 2022, this happened. I think that's fine. Usually I would say no, because I'd like it to be a little more evergreen, but I think we're going to end up having to go back through these articles and updating them anyways. So yeah, I think that's fine. Make it evergreen if you can, but if it's really nice for like examples and you want to put the year, I wouldn't use like the year as like an H2, like as a whole category. But if you want to have like example, hostile takeover, M&A, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, you could use the Twitter Elon example, for example, you know what I mean? Like it's a kind of an interesting deal. Absolutely. You can use those as examples, and it doesn't matter what year it's from so much as like, if you're highlighting a specific type of M&A.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for that. And the next one was, you were talking about networking earlier. I'm based out of Ireland, and my kind of target region is London. But if I want to go for coffee chats, it's obviously not very economical to go for flights every time you get an invitation. So how would you approach cross-border networking? And then my kind of follow-on question for that is, what kind of topics should you be talking about with these people? Because obviously, if you just keep asking about the culture of one, they probably get that a lot, and they're just get a bit bored of it. It might be worth their time, but at the same time, you can't really ask them what deals you're working on because that's confidential. So what are the best topics that you can bring up with them that make it stimulating, make it interesting for them, and also show them that, wow, you're interested, you know what you're talking about, and you're worth keeping in the loop about opportunities.
Yeah, I think this is a life skill that takes time to master, but as you do more and more of these, you'll get better and better at reading the person. So what I mean by that, so let's address the cross-border stuff first, or just the long distance stuff. So like, this is the same issue that people in Arizona deal with trying to recruit into New York, right? It's the same issue. You have to get on a flight to really get a coffee chat going. So the good news is Zoom's a little more acceptable nowadays. You can do, hey, do you mind doing a quick 5-minute or 10-minute, 15-minute Zoom chat just to meet and greet? You could always do that. The other thing is if you're a little bit further along, or you're like, you have a more set target of like group of firms. Let's say there's like 15 or 20 firms. You're like, okay, this is probably where I'm at. These are the firms that are probably the best shot for me. You could network with those people and then say, I'm going to be in London from these over these 4 days. Is there any time you'd be able to grab coffee? And you could say that, once you built up a large enough pool of contacts in London, let's say you have 200 to 300 contacts, right? In London specifically, you could go through that entire list, and a month, let's say you could book a ticket that's relatively inexpensive, say a month or six to 8 weeks out. You could say, I'm going to be, and then, a couple months out, you can say, hey, I'm going to be in London from this date to this date. I'd love to catch coffee if you're in town, You send that to them. Out of those several hundred, you'll probably get like 40-ish response back saying like, yeah, sure. And out of that, you'll probably get the week before, you just remind all those people like, hey, I'm going to be in town. How about we do this time at this day with this work? And you start trying to fill up your calendar for 2 or 3 days. You actually go into London, you go meet with, say, 15, 20 people. Because it is powerful and is worth it if you can afford the flight. I don't think it's too expensive from Ireland, right? It's
no, it's okay. It's maybe, if you guess, one of the earliest ones, maybe
Spirit fly there. The budget airlines, is Spirit or one of those other budget airlines fly there. You could
Ryanair.
Yeah, Ryanair. Seats. There you go. You could do this like the standing seats and stuff.
Well, they tried to do that a few years ago, and the government were like, absolutely not.
Yeah, so I think if you can spare the time, you're still in school in uni?
Yeah, just about to finish
so
my second year.
You're a couple of years. Yeah, great time to go. Maybe this summer you could go.
Yeah, I'm due to go over in May anyway, so maybe I could try and do some networking now, some express networking.
Yeah, I would try to scale it up right now. Let people know when you're going to be in town and see if they're willing to meet you. Because even if it's only 5, people, it's still nice to get that face-to-face meetup, and that could turn into the one that helps you get the job.
I mean, I am scheduled to meet 1 or 2, but maybe I can try and push that a bit more.
Yeah, try to get it up.
Push to 5, 6, 7 at least.
Yeah, try to push it up because it's really helpful. It's really helpful to have those face-to-faces. And then your second question was more about specifically what do you talk about? So, well, if the guy is from Ireland as well, you can talk about where you're from in Ireland. You can talk about specific sports clubs you like. If you're a soccer fan, you can talk about if they're into. I mean, I'm looking at your LinkedIn. If they're into whatever XYZ club or group or hobby, because you've done research on that or that's great. That's a great icebreaker. If not, doing research about their firm is always good. And you can ask more generic questions. You don't say what deals are you on, but you can say how are the groups structured in terms of how are deals staffed, for example. It's a good question. Basically, is it 1 analyst, 2 analysts, an associate, and a VP, or is it just 1? Just sometimes there's not an associate there. I'd love to hear more about like what the day-to-day is like. And so that's good because it shows you showing a little bit in terms of you understand that deals are staffed, you understand, buy side, are you doing more buy side, sell side work? Are you doing restructuring work? What is that like? Is it debtor or creditor side? So like little subtle questions and the nuances of the types of work the bank is doing still can show, without knowing the exact deals they're doing, can still show a lot of knowledge. And that you've done your research. So, and it doesn't have to be all like that. I'd try to, you could even reference stuff in pop culture. If the person's like, seems like they don't want to talk about this and they're just like rolling their eyes bored out of their mind, you could ask something outside of finance, or, it's something that's in the public conscience, something that's, big news whether it doesn't have to be big news just in the Financial Times or Wall Street Journal, it could be some big news globally. So, you could talk about that. You could talk about, some things that personally have, you've been going through or what they're going through, and just ask about, life in London. What is it like to really live here and stuff like that? I think that's a little more interesting. and exciting for them to talk about rather than just be like, tell me about the culture of your bank. Like a generic question like that is usually going to fall flat and not be well received.
Awesome. Thank you, Patrick.
Yeah. Good luck. I would definitely try to up that, by the way. Try to get to 10 people if you can, if you're going to be there for, are you 2 days or 5 days or 7?
I haven't booked it. I could probably push it. I was thinking of maybe 2, but I can push that if the dates and the.
Yeah, people start saying, yeah, well, we'll meet and try to get to 3 or 4 days and just meet as many people as you can. Would be good.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Anyway, thank you very much.
Good luck. Yeah. I can take one more question. So let's see who's been waiting. Manas, you want to go ahead?
Hi, Patrick. Manas here.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I'm from India, actually.
Cool.
And today is actually my first day in the internship.
Welcome.
So, yeah. So I took the topic today, first topic as buyout. And I was searching through all the 3,000-4,000 topic, which one should I took? And I went for buyout. So I just wanted to ask, for the further topics, should I go for a topic which is more popular? Maybe suppose I have a topic mutual fund and another topic that is suppose the lobster effect, the lobster trap. And so one is very popular and the other one is interesting to me.
What do you mean by popular?
By popular, I mean it's commonly searched on the web.
Oh, okay. It's probably a high volume keyword, you're saying. Yeah. So you said the first one you did is buyout?
Buyout, yeah.
Like a leverage buyout?
Just buyout.
Buyout. Okay. I didn't even know that was a term. Under what? Okay. So yeah, go ahead. So, I mean, the answer really is whatever you want, Manas. So I would not focus on what's popular. I would focus on what's most interesting to you. And I would focus on grabbing keywords from a variety of different topics, some a little bit more technical, some a little bit more macroeconomic oriented, because it'll make when you list those terms on your CV, it'll probably make it look a little more well-rounded. It'll make it a little more interesting too. It won't be just accounting terms or just financial modeling or just macro. It'll be a blend of all of it. And it'll make you look probably more well-rounded.
Thanks.
That it? Okay. Well, everybody, thanks so much for joining this week. I appreciate all of you. I'll be here again next week with Nabil. And so hopefully I'll keep my voice. But other than that, thanks again. If there's any questions, I'll post this to the group for everybody by next week. And yeah, thanks again. We'll talk soon. Take care, everybody. Have a great week. And thanks to you, my listeners at Wall Street Oasis. If you have any suggestions whatsoever, please don't hesitate to send them my way, patrick@wallstreetoasis.com. Until next time.